Hey all, welcome to the next edition of Amnic Cast. Today we have Aankur Khare, but like usual, before we enter into it, I just want to put a disclaimer that our panelists here will be sharing their personal opinions, and these doesn't actually reflect any of their company positions in it. All what we are talking about is their professional experience in terms of what they have learned and sharing that knowledge with us. With that, let me welcome Aankur Khare, and he is a director of strategy and operations of technology at Glance. Welcome.
Thank you, Sathya. Hello, everyone. So I'm so happy to be here because I have been following your podcast, and I really feel lucky because I feel that I have some technology stuff in me because I'm sitting in Amnic Cast. Yeah. So a brief introduction of mine. I started my career in 2009 with Tata Motors, and I have been with in automotive sector for the initial 8 years of my career, and after that I joined Ola Electric. That was an introduction for the tech startup world for me. And presently, I am the director of strategy and operations for technology function at Glance. And before we go into the specifics of the podcast and the technology stuff, I would just like to give a brief introduction about my company. So, I mean, it is very simple to explain my company. My company is Glance, and it is the product comes pre-installed in almost every Android phone in India, and we are we operate at a very large scale. So we have almost 295 plus million active users across the globe. So it's a content delivery platform on lock screen. So every time a user unlock the screen, the new content will come. That's the simplest way of describing my company. And if the user wants to know more, go deep, so they can just swipe in like this, and they will go into the binge mode and they can change the content and understand. Uh, they can,
Awesome, Ankur.
yeah,
But before we go into the actual cloud cost and all those things, so I've seen Ankur in a different avatar at Ola Electric. We used to work together, where he was also the chief of staff. So, and I know that he was working at Glance, but when I just stumbled upon his blog on Techonomics, suddenly I saw a different version of Ankur talking about cloud cost, and all those things. I was little like, oh, how did Ankur get into this? And that's when I pinged them and said, like, hey, how did you do some of these cloud cost stuff that you guys have done? And they are pretty powerful and are very simple strategies, right? So I wanted him to be invited to this podcast so that we can discuss about what went behind the scenes of making some of these things. When we look at cloud cost, we always think that, oh, it's complex, we have to do a lot of tech. But I think they have come up with some innovative ways which are very simple. And I'll let Ankur explain some of those things, right?
yes. So I think for any tech company, Satya, in their business model, infrastructure plays a big role, right? Because we don't have any operations as such. So infra cost is one of the big costs uh, in the business model. And at the same time, infra is responsible for user experience, right? The better your infra is, the smoother your infra is, you will be able to please your user. So we always knew that this is going to be a very important. This is a very important component in our business puzzle. So we were having this discussion that we got to optimize it. How do we go about optimization? And my CTO, his name is Arvind Jayaprakash, he just told me that since we are a large tech org, so we will have to come up with something which is very easy to absorb. Right from SDE1 to VP of engineering, everyone should talk the same language, same lingo, same understanding, and one thing is very peculiar about Glance is that we got bigger by, let's say, a lot of acquisition. We acquired gaming company, we acquired shopping company, and that's how we offer a lot of things to our user. And when we acquired them, so everyone was having their own stack. And so we are formed by the integration of lot many stacks. So the complexity is high. And at the same time, multiple stacks, multiple clouds, right? And at the scale of 295 plus billion active users across geographies, I mean, you can understand the complexity, right?
Very much.
Yes. So that's how we agreed to something that we will keep it very simple, so that each technology functions, non-technology functions like finance and though they can also talk to us. They can also understand what we are doing, right? So what we did is that we came up with very basic 5 principles that, and that's how we had our conversations with our SDs, our staffs, VPs. So whenever you go to an engineer and you tell them that, boss, we have to optimize our infrastructure. So you will start getting some great ideas. I'm saying great ideas. They will say, let's change our language. Let's use lighter language like Go and all those things. And then they will talk about code refactoring and let's change our architecture. But what we said, this is not required to start with. Right? Your initial needs can be fulfilled if you follow just basic 5 principles. So what are those 5 principles? So the first principle that we followed was be disciplined and independent. So what is the meaning of be disciplined and independent? So it comes from our childhood, right? Our parents will tell us that if you are not in a room, please make sure that the lights are off, the fan is off, right? If you are brushing your teeth, please don't switch on the tap. It is as simple as that. So we applied the same learning in our tech. We said that if you are not using your pipeline, switch them off. If you are not using your GPUs, the costlier GPUs, switch them off, right? So yeah, so discipline is a very important aspect, right? Because you lose a lot of money there. It's a leakage. Then independent means that you have to have that knack of using open source tools, right? You having managed services is always good, but you have to understand where do you need managed services, where do you not. And that's why you optimize your infra. So I'll just give you one example that about discipline. So I was speaking to our ML team, and we told them that we have to optimize, we have to come up with some kind of basics principles to avoid leakages. So our ML team, what they did in just a matter of 9-10 days, they created their own scripts to generate alerts that if the pipeline is open unused for, let's say, more than 1 hour, there will be a team alert, which will go to a set of people. It is very easy. It does not. So yeah. So that's how we came up with this principle, and we applied this in our day-to-day work.
Before you move to the next one, what I want to understand is this is a very simple and powerful, right?
Yes.
You are applying what you are doing on a basic stuff that, okay, switch off your light when you go, to switch off your servers when you're not using. Now, how did you inculcate also into others to do that, right? What was your methodology to go and tell? You told ML team.
Yes.
Did you have to go to each team, or like what was your process to do that one?
So one first was that we in our company we have a platform called backdrop session. So backdrop session is meant for any developer, any techie who has done some work. They can display their work to the entire tech team. Right? And we use that platform. Our ML team came together and they displayed that. That's how they did not use any fancy stuff or any complicated stuff. In just a matter of 19 days, they came up with simple script, which helped us a lot, right? I'll maybe after some time I'll send you some screenshots also where how the alert looked like. It was not about only it had machine utilization. It had so basic stuff. The data points are always available in your cloud dashboard. You just have to pull them.
Nice. So once the session happened, others got inspired by that, and then they started doing that. That's how the culture got up.
We requested everyone. If you have to know your service.
Yeah.
In our tech culture, we have every service is having an owner, the code maintainer, code owner. So we requested all the code owners that just please look into this. There is an important aspect of our culture.
Nice. Yes. So what's the second one?
Yeah. Second one is we call it keep it simple. So what we did is that we knew that there are some of the services which are a bit complex. We knew that. So we called all the complex service owners in a room and we just told them then that can you explain your service to a 10th grade student? So some of them said that yes, I can, and some of them really find hard to explain. And that was the aha moment for us because if you cannot explain your service to a 10th grade student, there is something wrong. You are not keeping it simple, right? So then we found a service. It was a load balancer service, and we realized that that service was doing a lot of work, which it was not supposed to be. We had to break it down into components and all. So there we did. We simplified the service. We onboarded some tools from. We took help from our cloud partners, and we really got a lot of optimization there. It just not only reduced the cost, but the downstream services got a lot of benefits from that. There was no latency issues and all those things. So yeah, so that's how we do. So and now it's a simple cultural thing again. Whenever I'm writing a service, I have to make sure that I can explain this to a 10-grade student.
Nice.
That's a very simple thing. Yes.
Nice. What's the third?
Yeah. So third one is again, it is inspired from everyday life, right? The name of the third, I would say discipline or the principle is know your consumption, right? So again, it's a very common day life example that if you know that how much, what is your rice consumption, what is your pulse consumption, how many soaps you use, if you know your grocery, so you can just subside them from any e-commerce platform and you will easily get a discount of 10-15%, right? But that's a very best, every mother will know this. Yeah. So we asked every developer, every service owner, that do you know your consumption? And it happened that many places we did not know, but we will work towards that. And the upsides of knowing the business is too high, because if you know your consumption for 1 year, you can easily get a discount of upwards of 30%. These are called committed usage discount, reserve instances, all those things. And if you know your consumption for 3 years, you can get up to 60%. Right? So the upsides of knowing your business, and that's how we got a culture of that every developer, they know their business. I mean, they are not confined to their service. So that's how you create more, you diminish boundaries between tech, product, and business, and that's how your company grows.
But is this consumption? The teams actually put it, and finally, some central team actually does the CUD.
Yes, we have a platform. Yeah. Correct.
So basically, everybody percolates that, okay, I know that for 1 year, this is what I'm going to use.
Definitely.
And then you aggregate everything.
Yeah, it's a simple technique. I'm not saying that you have to know 100% of that stuff. Correct. Even if you know 70%, that's okay, because you always take reservations on the safer side. Correct. You don't overcommit, right? But the upsides of that commitments are very high. I'm saying minimum 30%. So you have not touched even a single line of your code, and your bill is 30% down.
Is this something cadence that you do like every month kind of stuff? Like how frequently do you?
Not every month, because usually we follow quarterly thing, because quarter to quarter we have goal settings and all. So we know that level of calibration, that what is going to be changed. Are we going to go heavy on videos, or are we going to go heavy on images or text? So we know all those stuff. So basis that we do that calibration always.
Awesome. Let's go to the fourth principle that you have.
Yes. The fourth one is quite interesting, because the name of the principle is right tool for right work. So very simple question. In Bangalore traffic, you will not use a racing car for office commute, right? Because racing car is not a right tool for office commute. Right? You will use a very simple fuel efficient hatchback or something to do that. Similar thing applies here. Same thing, same real world principle, that if you think that some of the job or maybe the service needs a simpler tool, do the audit of your service, right? Understand that, know your infra basically, that what kind of products you're using, do this service need that kind of performance? So I'll just give a very brief example. I have a couple of them. So one example is the use of Spanner versus Bigtable, right? Both are great products, amazing products, but Spanner is like a racing car. It's a very advanced product, and we had one of the service. We knew that it is using a Spanner, so we went to the service owner and we said that, do you think that you need Spanner? What is your service doing? And everything ties up. Then the guy explained us that this is the function of the service, like a 10-grade student, simplistic way. Then we asked that what is your writing latency requirements, reading latency requirements, all those things. And then we we said that why don't you do a POC with Bigtable? Why can't you do it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it started, right? And I mean, it really helped us, in not in just terms of cost, but in terms of performance also. That is one example.
Nice.
Similarly, one more example is about data storage, right? With any cloud, you will have 3-4 forms of data storage. One is the normal storage where you have fast access, but there will be one cold storage where the storage cost will be extremely low, but the access cost will be high, right?
Yeah.
So, just for example, if you have 100 GB of data, so you have to analyze that you don't need 100 GB on daily basis, right? There will be some data will be used for contingency, emergency purpose. So you have to know your data exactly. So if you know that, you can keep a lot of stuff on cold storage. And the moment you shift your data loads to cold storage, there's a huge amount of optimization that you get. So that's how we came up with this principle that and this I would say this principle we asked everyone to apply that whatever if you know your infra, this applies to machines also because you will have lots of families of machines, compute machines, right?
Yeah.
Some will be very high on RAM and very high compute power, some will be low. So you have to see that what kind of machines do you need for your application.
Agreed.
And trust me, I mean it's a very simple level, but if you apply this upwards of 30%, I mean there's you can just take it in writing that if you do it this principle, yeah.
We have seen where people moving into, let's say, cold storage kind of stuff are saved like 90% of their overall cost.
Exactly.
Because that data is not being accessed at all.
Exactly. It was just for emergency. Similar things happen with machines also. I mean, no disrespect to developers, but everyone thinks that their service is quite complex. They will need high-level machine, high-end CPUs, and all those things. But in actual, if you do the POCs, you have got to have the POC culture. You have to allow your developers to do POCs, and you have to create that environment. So that's what we do. I mean, in our company culture, it is the freedom to do experiments is very high, and we really appreciate developers. We have prop sessions, even if the work that the developer has done does not have any relation with the work, they can present it. So just I'll take a couple of minutes where one of our developer, his name is Ravi Dhuria. So he's a staff manager, and I was just having a water cooler conversation with him one day, and he was telling me that how he created automated food machine for the aquarium that he has at home.
Wow.
I mean, it's an amazing blog that he has written. I'll send you. So I'm just telling you about the tech culture, that how do we promote such conversations and such experimentations. It's amazing to work. Yeah.
Very nice to hear. And we have the final principle.
Yeah, last but not the least, I think. And this is a bit techie word. The principle is observability and measurability. So I'm going back to the principle of, let's say, be disciplined. So as I told that time that when you are not in the room, right, be sure that the lights are off. But just imagine if your home has 200 rooms, because tech is complex, right? So you cannot go to every room, each and every room every day, right? So how will you know that where the lights are on?
Mm-hmm.
How will you know that? How will you do that smell test? And for that, a good observability tool is a must to have. Must have.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no replacement of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what happened, because doing we encourage our developers to do the smell test on their own. And trust me, once we talk to them about this principle, people came to us and saying that I feel there's something. One developer came to me and said that Amkur, there's something wrong here. I said, what is wrong? He said that we are doing a business worth X, but the querying cost of that business is a bit high. I don't think it is. It should be let's say 1% of X or something of X, but it is slightly high. At that level, he came to me and told me that this is the smell test that I did, and I asked him, how did you do the smell test? Then he came, I used this tool, and I was just analyzing on the cost. And then he said that how can the cost of writing a query be that much percentage of the revenue? It cannot happen, right? So these are the smell tests that you got to encourage your developers to do their on their own. And this culture can only be fostered when you have right tool set. Similarly in infra, that we always talk about optimization, but there will be situations where which are out of control, where something will fail, right? And you will see that the there are so many pots spinning up, and you don't know what's happening to your RAM and core cost. It's just going high, and you so it will always happen to everyone. The secret is that how fast you resolve it. So you should not, at least it is my learning that I have got in my experience, that you should not always aim for best in class error free system. I mean, there will always be errors, but you should have that ability to solve them very quickly, to know them very quickly, right? And that's how the tool helped us. The tool, that's how the observability tools comes into picture.
So how do you use these things today? Like for example, do you look at service X and service Y and say like, why is this having a higher throughput but lower cost kind of stuff?
Yes, yes, exactly. That's how we do the smell test. So we have a lot of services, and that's microservice architecture, and we know that. So we largely understand that this service is doing that, this service is doing that. These are the dependent service, upstream, downstream service. So that's how we do the smell test. If service X is doing this much amount of work and is causing us $A, and service B is doing this much amount of work and costing us $B, so you will get that knack that A and B have, there should be some ratio. And the moment we understand that the ratios are off, that's where we will do the smell test.
Amazing. Very nice.
Yes.
See, I think, see, the good thing is none of the tool can capture this context.
Yes.
But the person who is building those things can capture it because he knows the difference between what service A to service B is.
Yes.
And if you put it to the revenue and then you map everything, you know that, oh, this might not do it. So I think pretty nicely done. So coming from like Amnic does cloud cost observability for our stuff, and this is what we actually see.
Yeah.
The context that's provided in the tool actually helps customers to make sure how you could optimize, which by the tool itself might not know because it doesn't have the context.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And one more benefit that I will tell you, it's not a very techie benefit, but I'll tell you how the tool helps in setting up the culture, right? Because when you have a tool in front of you, so each one of us will talk the same lingo, right? They will understand that what the graph is showing, and if you have the practice, let's say if you know that what is the infra, and it is in your culture that every morning you go, you check your metrics, and that's what we promote in our organization. That every developer, every staff, they have their own dashboards. So first thing that they do go in the morning is to check dashboards, that the metrics that they are following, input metrics, output metrics. So, and that's how you fuse some initiative into the culture, right? And that's how the good tool can do that.
Awesome. Ankur. Anything else that you want to add to it, like other than the principles that you have been using? Any other stuff that you want to touch upon?
Yeah, and I mean, I can just add something something very personal, that when I was working in tech startups initially, not before, just before Glance. So I was always very passionate about knowing tech, because tech was something that I knew that is changing us, right? Everyone was talking about applications, this and that, and I coming from automotive industry, I did not know anything about tech. So luckily, God's grace, I got the chance to work at Glance, and I mean, it is I would say mecca of tech. The complexity that I told you, the sheer scale. I mean, developers die for this, to work for this scale, right? It's a one-time kind of lifetime opportunity that you got to handle 290 plus million users and the high level of QPS, and that's what give them a lot of hype, right? So yeah, that's and the good thing with me is that I joined as a chief of staff to my CTO, and chief of staff as a role, I do not have any JD, right? I have to do work on multiple problem statements. So this problem statement came to me, that now you have to handle this tech infra optimization, and that's how I learned tech. I learned tech infra backwards.
Nice. Amazing. Ankur. Thanks a lot for sharing this.
Yeah.
I hope it's really helpful for others to look at cloud cost and building the culture of optimization and managing the cost by very simple and effective principles.
Yes.
I think I haven't seen anybody explaining it this simply some of these powerful concepts
Yes.
so that like people can use it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you.
Thank you.